Okay, so I have found out some really interesting things about work by Lucian Foster. And so I'm going to kind of tell you where my head's at right now with this. As I'm studying and reading Wilford Woodruff's journals, I'm looking at the church catalog. So the church has a lot of pictures of him. And Wilford Woodruff was like the best at notating. And so, again, if you're new, Lucian Foster is mentioned in Joseph Smith III's letter in 1910. He credits him, he thinks it's 1843, that he took his dad's picture before he died. Like, if he's alive, why would he take a daguerreotype of the painting and not of the man? Makes no sense. Especially when you read along. So Lucian Foster shows up in 1844, not 1843. And the painting everyone thinks matches a real photo of him, and they think it was based on a daguerreotype. Makes no sense because it was painted in 1842. Okay, so April 29th, 1844, Joseph Smith's journal. He meets with Lucian R. Foster of New York, and Lucian Foster, as we know, he didn't learn in notated photography, daguerreotypes. He learned in New York, and so he brought his camera with him. He has the camera for 2 months before Joseph Smith died, and he's on his presidential campaign. But he doesn't open his studio till August 10th, 1844. Does that matter? Because he already has specimens. It's not even 2 months since Joseph Smith died. He's running for his why wouldn't he do his picture? Yeah. So the church bought and has this. It's in the church history library. And they're thinking this is 1843, 1844 if you look at it. So there's a call number, church history library. But they also have this picture that I'm going to show you there. And so they actually opened the door for this to also be Lucian Foster. And I'm just going to tell you quickly why in a minute here. But I'm going to show you some quick things here. So this is his journal entry. And so there aren't a lot of people that stated in their journal, Lucian Foster took my picture. You know, it's just sort of, they just have it. And because it's a daguerreotype, it's metal, they didn't really have a way of writing, I guess, like, well, in the case of one of the maybe Joseph Smith pictures, Stuart, I guess they would sometimes etch their name in it, but generally it was just word of mouth and they just knew, maybe hopefully remembered. But I mean, of course, carte de visites, they got a stamp. This is my photography, you know? So August, so it opens up the 10th, and on the 23rd, Woodruff talks about they went to visit and they saw Sister Foster, but they obtained miniatures by the ingenuity of Brother Foster of the apparatus of the daguerreotype. We both obtained a good likeness. And in the evening, Elder called upon me and other stuff happened. It doesn't matter. But Lucian Foster took his daguerreotype. And we got, this is him. This is also him. They're sitting exactly the same. I've analyzed this, and his body's moving back. For whatever reason, he's moving in this picture. And it's blurred. But it gives the illusion of having no wrinkles, so they think he looks younger. So they think this is the youngest looking picture of him. I think here he has a lot more pomade in his hair, and he's just a lot more still, and it's more clear. But this is the only picture of Phoebe that I could find at this age of an individual picture of her. And I think the cases look the same. I think she's closer to the background. But what is interesting is look at sort of that. You're seeing the texture of that background, and you're seeing that it gets darker at the top, and on the side there's a pleat in the background. And hers you do see when you see the full picture. I hate that this is cut off. I was trying to find high quality of this not cut off, if that makes sense. But oh well. But you're seeing there's sort of this, sort of a speckled background, and it's draped and it's got a pleat there. And so I'm seeing a lot of similarities. You're seeing they all look darker at the top. And Joseph Smith was 6'2", Emma was 5'9", and I was reading that Wilford Woodruff was like 5'7". So it's just really, you can tell this is the same thing. This is not like a wall. Okay. And so in the Joseph Smith papers, they were saying this was 1849, but we know what pictures were from 1849. So, and we know what pictures are 1850, and I don't think any of them are that picture, so I'll explain that here. So here's 1849. I went to Boston. It's so specific. This is why we know. Oh, is that a train? I guess that's a train. I don't know. He just drew pictures. I love this. I think it's so cool. Father Carter, Mrs. Woodruff, and Phoebe and Susan Woodruff got all our daguerreotype likeness taken in one group. And so Father, Mrs. Woodruff, and he only has one wife at this point. We can all actually credit him for ending plural marriage in the Church of Christ Latter-day Saints in 1890. Of course, it took a while before it became, excommunicate you. But it did happen by 1910 because of him. Got all of it more from the government. But anyway, taken in one group. Brother Cannon. So he's saying it's Cannon. He says who the photographer is, and he's so descriptive. So we go from one journal entry saying Lucian Foster did this. It was me, a specific one of just me, and one of just my wife, Phoebe. At this point, his only wife is still just Phoebe. But we know, because he says his father's there and his two daughters, because one of the daughters is named after the mother, Phoebe. And then him and Phoebe are in the back. And it's just kind of, I don't know. Throw two kids in grandpa's back. I just love, that's his expression, like, okay. And I guess he died not long after that. He's got a pop-down collar. But that's Wilford, and that's Phoebe. But 1850, I don't know what has happened. Maybe doesn't have much money in New York because he gets really emaciated. And so I'm just preparing you for that. So by 1850, Wilford Woodruff looks totally different. Okay, but we know this is the 1849 picture. I don't really think that background doesn't match. This background's white. So Cannon's background is not like Lucian Foster's. This is Cannon's background. But you do see sort of a standard darker background later here. But so then we've got 1850. And so the Saints had left in 1849. I don't know everything about his life, but I think he's still in Boston, or he might be in Utah at this point. I'm not positive. But anyway, he just talks about different stuff that had happened. And then Brother Cannon, his address. We know his address now. He took my daguerreotype likeness a year later and put it in a bosom pen. And for Mrs. Woodruff also, and one in a small case. And so he's very specific again about what these images are. And so by 1850, he looks really different. And so this is Wilford Woodruff in 1850. I think he just looks really, really emaciated. Don't know what had happened at that point. But that's the pin in the matching case. So that's 1850. So that is Wilford Woodruff. So we know. It's like we know what images are 1850. We know what images are 1849. But all these other images are kind of guessing. And so you're seeing he's graying a little bit at this point. He just looks so different, but it seems like a sure thing that this is the 1850 picture. So, it could just be the hardships of their life, the mass exodus of 1846, and I just don't know. Maybe that's, at that point, a full year of not having very much food or something. I just don't know. It's really sad. Makes me sad to see that, but So, yeah, this is sort of my reasoning. Those are his journal entries. I went through those. We know looks really different than his 1850 picture. It looks the most similar to this because they're sitting the same. You're seeing that piece of metal coming down. It does look like he's leaning back. He just suddenly moved and didn't get a good daguerreotype, and I think he went and got another one. But I don't know. But at least they do keep the door open. But that's where I'm leaning towards. And then, of course, there is... I don't know if I already pulled this up, but I'm just going to pull it up again. I wish I had a higher resolution copy of this, because that's the same picture. But you can really see it gets a lot darker at the top, and they're seeing that pleat on the side. And again, it's just for analysis purposes. I'm really seeing there's a pleat in the background, curves at the top, and people tend to just credit. They just don't know. Daguerreotypes, they just don't know. It's hard to prove who did it. But Wilford Woodruff is the person that was very specific, that helps us out a lot. So I'm feeling quite confident that I'm really thinking these are their matching. Because what other pictures do you have of her that is in a similar case and a similar background? I've analyzed and outlined, and I think she's farther away from the camera. Kind of like Emma's farther away. Maybe that was sort of the style. Women, you let them be farther away from the camera so it's less harsh on their facial features, and just to get more of, they're women. They wanted to get more of their body, I guess. But I think that would be consistent because these backgrounds seem to match, and I think that really, especially when you look at that full of the picture, I wish I had that, but yeah. So again, these are all courtesy of Church History Library of the Church of Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I'll throw in the call number at the end of this video. But I'm just hoping, if anyone knows anything else, just let me know. But this is what I'm thinking. If anyone else that's researching, that's why I'm feeling quite confident that must be Lucian Foster. But again, you can't prove this is 100% Lucian Foster. I think they both are. I think it's definitely original and by him, and one of the oldest, probably the oldest. I would say this is the first one. He didn't know how to pose for a daguerreotype. And then he just was a little bit more still, and then he looked like he had more wrinkles, but just because he wasn't moving. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. Thanks to everyone that follows me. I'm going to update my website now, and I'm probably not going to keep this one up for super long for various reasons. But anyway, have a good day.